'Cause every night I will save your life, and every night I will be with you. 'Cause every night I still lay awake and I dream of an absolution.
How's it going, guys? It's Lord Danny here with a new type of video. This is going to be a Lord Danny reviews Sonic merch kind of video. So, I have quite a big Sonic collection. It's probably not as big as I think, to be honest, but I have a lot of merchandise. And I've always wanted to do a, Lord Danny's Sonic collection style of YouTube video. But I figured that it would just be too long, simply because A, the collection's pretty big, and B, I just like talking about each piece of merchandise individually. They all have their own stories behind how I got them, and they all have stories behind how they were actually made and what their current life is on the market. So I decided to do this kind of series where I talk about each bit of merch individually. And I'm starting it off with this guy. Sorry for my gloves. This is my Silver the Hedgehog Jazwares figure. Now, I don't know when he was actually made. I probably should have checked that before filming this, but I do not know for the life of me what year he was made. I know that it was not 2006. I don't think he was that old. I think he probably came a bit later, in like the sort of late 2000s. I'm not sure. Someone could correct me. I'll probably Google it after I film this. But these Jazwares figures are pretty much discontinued now. You only get those like Sonic Boom Tomy figures and stuff. But Jazwares made really good figures. So as you can see here, Silver looks like Silver. That sounds like a really weird thing to say, but Silver, right? He some merchandise of Silver just doesn't look like him, and I'm really glad that Jazwares captured the character perfectly. And the detail. I'm going to talk about the detail for a minute. He's got a lot of detail in this figure, so as you can see, he's got colouring in his ears. You can't really see it, but it's somewhere in his ears there is colour, I promise. He's got detail on like his cuffs and his hands. Let's see if it'll focus. It's not focusing because it's being a prat right now, but he does have like his circles and his cuffs that are painted. His face, of course, his face is detailed, and his chest fur, which also like is on the back. We all know his hair like goes that far back on him, and even the palm of his hands have those rings on. And lots of people do complain that this figure has very basic feet, because the Shadow figures have like the booster parts of Shadow's feet, and Sonic has whatever he has on the base of his feet. But lots of people say that he's got like really plain feet that no one cares about. Here you can see he's got a hole where he can stand. If you want to know my opinion on the whole feet thing, I really don't mind that his feet aren't detailed, because look, you're going to stand him up. You're not going to see the base of his feet unless you pose him. But yeah, there you go. So his detail, if I was to rate it out of 10, is probably 9 out of 10. I'm simply taking a 1 off because of the whole debate about his feet being very basic. Now, when I brought it up to the camera earlier, you'll probably see that mine has like a drip on his nose. It looks like he's like sneezed or something, and it looks a bit weird. That's because my Silver, his nose came off. My younger brother threw him on the floor and his nose came clean off. I was really upset about it, but I glued it back on. So I'm now going to talk about like the articulation and how fragile he is. So aside from his nose, and probably maybe these things too, he's not that fragile. He's obviously made for children to play with. He's got a lot of articulation in his like arms, shoulders, wrists, his head. His head can move, his waist can. So lots of people like to point out that Jazwares figures, they don't have a movable waist. His waist doesn't move too much, but it does move. I do promise that. It's hard to show with like the way I'm holding him, but he does. His legs, knees, ankles, they all move too. So he's very flexible and he's very durable. The only thing with the nose is that he was like literally smashed on the floor, and his nose just came off. So the only thing I'd be careful of is his nose. But other than that, he's not very fragile, because I have heard of figures, Sonic figures which are fragile, and I have a few of my own, which I'll talk about in later videos. And again, he's, with all of his articulation, that's good, because lots of people say about the Jazwares waist and the feet, they can be a bit dodgy. I will show you one of my own figures in another video with a dodgy waist that doesn't turn at all. It's probably a design flaw, or maybe just a one-off flaw in a figure, but who knows. So as for the silver figures, you can see that they are flawless when it comes to articulation compared to other Jazwares figures, and again, very durable. These things on his head, probably quite fragile, but I would say they can withstand a lot, because when my brother threw him on the floor, they didn't get damaged, but his nose did. So I've gone over his detail and his articulation. If I was to rate his articulation out of 10, I would just give it a 10, because he's just flawless the way he moves. And as for his durability, again, I'd give him a 9, simply because of the nose, maybe an 8 due to these. They probably can be fragile, but then again, no, I'd stay at 9, because these, for what they are very strong. And his fingers as well, because it's like Shadow, he has Shadow has fists. I believe the Shadow figure has fists at least, but no, he doesn't. And his fingers, again, they're very thin but durable. Now, one thing I'm going to quickly go over is, before I go into the pricing of this figure, which I'll end the video on, people like to customize Jazwares figures, don't they? And if you're watching this and you do have an interest in customizing, I would probably recommend buying him mainly for his hands and for his legs. So maybe his torso as well. I'd probably recommend Sonic more than anything, but this guy's arms, the hands are quite a nice pose for the hands, and the cuffs, if you want to make someone like Manic who's got those spiky wristbands, these are probably quite cool. What I'd talk about with the feet though, his feet are very, because people complain about them being basic, they are easy to mould on. You can add stuff to them, you can paint them easily. They're not Shadow's feet are very unique. These ones can just become anything, so if you want to buy him for customizing, I'd probably buy him for legs. I think I've seen people make Sally Acorn out of his legs, her legs, not just a whole figure out of her legs. But yeah, the only thing I'd say about customizing is you couldn't really use him for anything with his head. So one thing I probably should have mentioned earlier when I was just talking about the figure is that he is very unique. The reason I chose to buy him was because he was a very unique looking figure. People like Sonic and Shadow, they look very standard, but Silver's got a very unique look to him, and it's very hard to actually find decent Silver merchandise. You can find a lot of Sonic, you can find a lot of Shadow, but Silver, not as much. And again, if I was to say anything, this is probably one of the best pieces of Silver the Hedgehog merch out there. So I bought him because I liked Silver, and also because I knew he was a really cool looking figure. He's very unique. You don't get any other figures with this pattern and stuff. But yeah, so let's go and finalise this whole thing with the pricing. So I got him for about 20 quid, 25 quid I reckon, and that was during a time when Jazwares figures were still pretty rare. And at the time, rare figures were going for about £45. Now the prices have gone sky high with Jazwares figures, because they're obviously rarer to obtain, especially when they're boxed. So bear in mind, I got him new in box for about £25. I went on eBay earlier and I found a second-hand unboxed Silver the Hedgehog figure like this for 50 quid. Quid is pounds in UK slang, sorry. So again, I really recommend that you buy him because he's really cool, but on the other hand, I understand if you don't have the money, then you don't need to buy him, because he's just gone so up in price. And I've not seen a boxed one priced yet, but if the second-hand one is going for £50, I can only imagine that the box Silver the Hedgehog goes for £100 probably. I have seen Jazwares figures go for £100 and even more than that. They are very rare now. There's some that I just can't even find anymore. But yeah, if you can afford him, if you ever sit down thinking, oh, I want to buy a Jazwares figure just to say I have a Jazwares figure, who should I buy? I'd probably say he's cheaper than some of the other rare ones, but all of them are very expensive. And again, like I said, I bought him for his unique design, and he's got good articulation, so... But I would recommend just buying him for a second hand if you can. Unless you really want a box version, don't get him in a box if you don't want a box version. So if you ever see like a brand new in-box Silver the Hedgehog, just let it be bought by someone who actually wants it in the box, because they discontinue, don't forget. And, you know, some people want to collect these things in boxes. I have respect for those people. But, yeah, I just recommend getting him out of the box, like a non-box version, simply because it's so hard to obtain the boxed Jazwares figures nowadays. And the more that disappear, then the more they'll go up in price. So only buy him in a box if you intend to keep him in the box. That's all I can say. So overall, this figure, is he worth it? Well, yeah, to be honest. Even though he's really small, like, no matter what you want to do with him, I think he's just fun. He's, again, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, like, I've seen people make, like, stop animations out of these guys. Now, you probably would be better having him on a stand. If I remember correctly, the stands are transparent, so they won't show up much on film. But if you want to make an experimental stop-motion film, he's got a lot of articulation to him. And you can make him do a lot of movements, which is why I recommend him for that. You can just have him sit on your shelf, like I literally just have him sitting down like that on my shelf. That's all he does, because I haven't got a stand for him. But if you want him on a shelf, yeah, you can do that with him. If you want him to customize, then again, you can do that with him. Like I said, he's got good boots and he's got good hands. The head, though, you know, you're pretty much wasting a silver head because you can't really turn that into anything. All I would say about that is sell it on eBay, see if anyone's got a broken silver figure and need a new head for it. But yeah, that's it. That's the Jazwares Silver the Hedgehog figure. Late 2000s probably, 3 inches high. You know, overall, I'd just say overall 9 out of 10, because as I mentioned earlier, there are a few flaws with him, like his fragile nose probably, and his basic feet. But he's very nearly a 10 out of 10. He's pretty much a flawless figure, and he's very articulated compared to some other, like, flawed Jazwares designs. He's very detailed aside from those feet, and I just love him. You know, I bought him years ago, and I still love him to this day. Which shows how much he really was worth it for me. I'm so glad that I did buy him when I could. You know, he was one of the only Jazwares figures I got. But there you go. That's the Silver the Hedgehog Jazwares figure. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like. Dislike it if you just I don't really mind. Dislike it if you want to be that guy. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hello if you're new. And I hope you enjoyed this, because I enjoyed making it, and I do want to make more of this kind of video, because I have a lot of Sonic merch that I want to show off. Of course, you can leave a comment down below on what you want me to review. I could probably try and get my hands on something if I don't have it. If it's too expensive, maybe not, but there are some... There is a few expensive merchandise that I have plans to buy that go over hundreds of pounds. But overall, just leave a comment on what you want me to review next. I'll dig around, see if I've got it. I probably do, probably don't. When it comes to Jazwares, I probably don't have it, but you know, you never know. Also, just leave a comment on what you think about this figure. Like, if you own one, I want to hear what you think about him, like your experience with owning him. And if you don't, then just tell me what you think based on what you've learned from this video, or what you've heard somewhere else, because I know before I bought mine, I did actually watch a few review videos, because that was like YouTube in 2012, you know? But anyway, there you go. And I guess I'll be seeing you guys in bad fanfiction, which I'm going to die by the end of, probably, so... Anyway, this is Danny, and Jazwares Silver, signing out.